Rich Forrester's latest refusal comes like a thunderclap in a clearing sky, shattering the fragile hope Brooke Logan allowed herself to nurse after the magic-dusted spectacle on the Forrester runway. And from that moment the fabric of her confidence begins to unravel thread by humiliating thread, each public denial tightening around her like a silken noose, pushing her toward a reckoning she had never truly believed would come. Yet Ridge is resolute, colder than the marble beneath the haute couture mannequins, unmoved by memories of their decades-long carousel of passion and pain, intent only on making it clear that he will never again circle back to the woman who once defined every pulse of his heart, and the more Brooke reaches for a scrap of the familiarity they once shared, the more his rejection festers in the gossip-laden corridors of Forrester Creations, magnified by whispering interns and judgmental rivals until embarrassment eclipses nostalgia, until every sympathetic glance feels like a spotlight bearing her miscalculated optimism. The sting becomes unbearable when Ridge, cornered in Eric's office and spurred by his father's rueful admonition that mere words mean nothing without conviction, decides to transform his nebulous devotion to Dr. Taylor Hayes into a tangible vow, and so, on a sun-bleached afternoon heavy with Los Angeles heat and tension thick enough to slice, he descends to one knee in the Forrester courtyard, diamond ring blazing like a flare against the fountain's spray, promising Taylor not only his renewed love, but a fortress of loyalty impenetrable to history or doubt. The applause that erupts from startled employees reverberates through every corridor, reaching Brooke's ears before the official announcement finds its way to her inbox, and the echo carves a hollow in her chest where defiance once lived. For this proposal is no mere flourish meant to placate gossip columns, it is Ridge planting a flag on the future, proof to Taylor of the permanence he once withheld, proof to Brooke that the door she kept ajar has slammed shut with an iron clang that shakes the very foundations of her identity. In the whirlwind that follows, Taylor and Ridge glide through preparations with the buoyant certainty of soulmates rediscovered. Venue scouts diverge across Malibu cliffs and Bel Air estates. Couture seamstresses compete to drape Taylor in the softest whisper of silk. Douglas sketches ring-bearing designs with childish excitement, while Thomas volunteers architectural renderings for floral arches, and Steffi, radiant with approval, orchestrates guest lists designed to trumpet her parents' fairy tale renewal. Yet beneath the tulle and champagne tastings Brooke watches, uninvited but unavoidable, her once unchallenged place in Ridge's orbit recast as a footnote, her every breath tasting of ash as tabloids frame Taylor's engagement ring against a sunset and call it destiny. Night after night, she retreats to the seclusion of her estate, replaying Ridge's cool indifference on an endless loop, wondering how the man who once chased her through airports and across continents now speaks of her only in past tense. And gradually self-recrimination metastasizes into a silent, private despair that even Katie's gentle counsel cannot diffuse. The tipping point arrives when Ridge, rehearsing vows amid cascading ivory roses, is overheard telling Carter that if Brooke still dreams of reconciliation, she is chasing a mirage that never again will reflect reality. The comment finds its way to Brooke's phone in the form of an unsolicited recording, and the final veil of denial disintegrates, leaving her raw, exposed, forced to confront that she is no longer the woman Ridge fights for, but the cautionary tale he cites to justify moving on. That night, alone in her bedroom, thunder rolling over the Pacific, Brooke makes a decision as audacious as any scandal she ever ignited. She will leave Los Angeles, surrender the battlefield rather than languish in perpetual defeat, and in the quiet hours before dawn she drafts her resignation from hope for the future, arranges temporary guardianship of her duties to a shocked but supportive Hope, and books a one-way ticket to a discreet coastal clinic where renowned surgeons await to remove the inflamed appendix that, unbeknownst to gossip pages, has been causing her sharp, secret pain, physical agony that now mirrors the emotional tearing within. She frames the departure as medical necessity, yet understands it is exile too, a chance to cauterize wounds Ridge cannot see. As she packs, memories flicker like Polaroids, honeymoon laughter on a Big Bear balcony, whispered confessions in the Forrester steam room, passionate reconciliations that once felt inevitable, and with shaking hands she folds them away, refusing the temptation to cling to ghosts. Outside, paparazzi lights pierce the hedges, desperate for comment, but she slips into the waiting sedan without a word, letting the city's neon retreat in the rearview mirror, letting her tears fall unseen while headlines explode. Brooke Logan quits LA Ayler and Ridge's wedding full speed ahead. In her absence, the Forrester compound hums louder, planners accelerate timelines, and Taylor glows with the serene certainty of a bride safe from lingering shadows. Yet deep inside Ridge there flickers an unease he cannot name, a sense that finality should taste sweeter than this copper afterglow of regret. Still he barrels forward, vowing to silence doubts with action, booking the Monte Carlo honeymoon suite before invitations even reach the printer, determined to prove to father, children, and critics alike that his devotion is no longer divided. Weeks pass. Surgeons' lights fade into hospital ceilings for Brooke, stitches close around the emptiness where her appendix once throbbed. And in the hush of convalescence, she begins to imagine life untethered to Ridge's gravitational pull, a life in which the pages are blank enough for unexpected ink, and into that budding possibility steps Nick Marone, his arrival heralded by a simple get-well bouquet sent through mutual friends, yet radiating the familiar audacity of the seaborne magnate who once loved her with stormy, unapologetic fervor. Their first conversation, conducted over phone lines crackling with nostalgia, sends tremors through her resolve, reminding her that passion is not Ridge's exclusive domain, that perhaps the universe is opening a door she failed to notice while pounding on one that would never budge. As Nick speaks of sailing voyages and second chances, of meeting her in Montecito when the doctors clear her for sunlit decks, Brooke feels the stirrings of something both terrifying and exhilarating. The idea that returning to Los Angeles need not entail humiliation, but could instead herald renaissance. The idea that she might walk back into the Forrester showroom, not as a jilted lover, but as a woman reborn, ringed by a commitment forged far from familiar battlegrounds. Gossip sites catch wind, of course. Brooke spotted with Nick, old flames rekindle, and across town Taylor stiffens, fearing that Brooke's saga is not done rewriting itself into their narrative. Yet Ridge dismisses the chatter, insisting the chapter is closed. Still, on sleepless nights he wonders whether Brooke's departure will prove temporary thunder or the eye of a larger storm, for he knows Brooke's resilience is legendary, knows that phoenixes rise brightest from their own ashes. Meanwhile, wedding plans barrel onward, fittings finalize, catering tastings endorse caviar canapes, Ridge pens vows that promise skies devoid of clouds, and Taylor floats through each rehearsal buoyed by visions of happily ever after. Yet somewhere beneath the satin lining of her gown lingers the knowledge that Brooke's shadow, though distant, has never been easily outrun. And so the stage is set for an eruption none can yet predict. Brooke recovering on blushing Santa Barbara cliffs, Nick's mischievous grin promising adventures uncharted, a velvet box glinting on the teak table between them while sunset ignites the horizon. Ridge threading a platinum band onto Taylor's finger beneath chandeliers that shimmer like captured constellations, his voice steady yet his heartbeat betraying beats of memory. And the audience, family, rivals, devoted fans holding collective breath to see whether destiny has truly shifted or merely paused its pendulum. In the hush before vows, one question pulses louder than the violins. When Brooke Logan steps back into Los Angeles, will it be as the woman who surrendered everything or as the bride-to-be who claims a future Ridge never imagined she could forge without him? A future announced by the glitter of an unexpected engagement ring that catches the light and turns every assumption on its head. Liam Spencer's insistence that he is merely camping out at Steffi Forrester and John Finnegan's cliffside sanctuary because of a pesky plumbing fiasco back at his own place might have sounded harmless, even responsible, the first time he explained it, but every fresh sunrise over the glittering Pacific gnaws another thread from that flimsy excuse, and beneath the crashing surf there thrums a worsening truth that even the strongest Spencer bravado cannot drown. The tumor tucked inside Liam's skull is growing, nibbling at his balance, his vision, his certainty, sending silent shock waves that threaten to detonate at any moment. He tells himself and anyone who will listen that he is protecting Kelly's happiness by staying close, that he is embracing the impromptu family warmth that Steffi's home exudes, that he simply wants Beth's playdates to unfold without the chaos of repairmen trampling through hallways, but the darker reality bides its time behind his eyes, dancing at the edges of his peripheral vision, turning staircase banisters into dreaded tightropes, transforming grocery runs into gauntlets where the next seizure could slam him to the pavement. Yet pride convinces him he can still mask the occasional tremor by jamming his hands into his pockets, can still cloak the split-second blackouts behind a grin and a convenient claim of fatigue, can still mother hen Steffi's schedule and tease Finn about medical jargon while ignoring the way the world tilts when he rises too fast. Steffi and Finn try to trust his reassurance, but medicine has trained Finn to spot what denial dresses in polite smiles, and love has taught Steffi to sense the slightest wobble in Liam's stance. They exchange glances every time he disappears down the hallway for longer than a minute, whisper about scheduling another MRI, plot gentle interventions that never quite materialize because Liam keeps cracking jokes that land so perfectly they almost fool even them. That is, until the day Hope Logan arrives unannounced with Beth's favorite storybook tucked beneath her arm and finds the front door ajar, Liam's phone buzzing unanswered on the credenza, and a mug of cold coffee vibrating perilously close to the marble edge, abandoned mid-sip. Her pulse quickens with the old, familiar dread that struck the night Liam crashed his car after that office argument, and she calls out his name, voice ricocheting off vaulted ceilings, but receives only the hush of waves colliding with sandstone cliffs below. Then a dull thump echoes from the direction of the back patio, a sound that is neither furniture nor playful scuffle, and instinct propels her through the open French doors where sunlit tiles meet her bare ankles like searing proof that something is wrong. There he is, her co-parent, her complicated half-love, her ever-present tether crumpled beside the infinity pool's gleaming edge, one arm twisted beneath him, the other clawing at empty air as his eyes flutter in a storm of misfiring signals. Hope drops the book, pages splaying like broken wings, and falls to her knees, calling his name again, but the syllables barely graze his consciousness as the seizure grips his muscles in a cruel vice, arching his spine, locking his jaw, rattling breath from his lungs in short, terrifying bursts. Memories of the last time she dialed 911 flash across her mind. Ambulance sirens, antiseptic corridors, doctors spelling out prognosis in words she later Googled through tears, and though her fingers punch the numbers with frantic precision, a sob escapes at the automated voice that asks if she requires police, fire, or medical. Please, my daughter's father, he has a brain tumor, he's on the ground, he's convulsing, she blurts, and somewhere on the other end a dispatcher's calm cadence instructs her to ensure Liam's airway is clear, to time the seizure, to avoid placing anything between his teeth. Hope follows orders, sliding her cardigan beneath Liam's head to cushion violent jerks against stone, praying Finn and Steffi will materialize from upstairs in the next second. Yet knowing even Finn's physician hands cannot halt the tumor's silent march in this moment. Exactly 2 minutes and 17 seconds later, according to the stopwatch the dispatcher has her start, the convulsions slow, then cease, leaving Liam half-conscious, skin clammy, eyes unfocused as if he had spent centuries drifting alone in the darkest parts of the ocean. Hope's tears spatter his cheek and mingle with her relieved yet horrified whisper that help is coming, that she will not leave him, that Beth still needs bedtime stories read by Dad, so he'd better fight with every cell left in his body. Sirens wail up the private drive, and the paramedics who pour onto the patio seem to understand at once that this is not a simple fainting spell, but a neurological emergency they've been briefed on before. One recognizes Finn's address, comments that the good doctor is likely at the hospital already, and they load Liam onto a stretcher with the careful efficiency of men who know speed is everything. Hope answers questions about medication, tumor size, surgery options suggested then shelved at the last consult, and as they wheel him through the foyer, Finn bursts in, chest heaving from a sprint across the beach path after Steffi's frantic phone call. The look they exchange, Hope and Finn, conveys primal terror, shared guardianship of a man whose fate binds their children's smiles. Steffi arrives a breath later, hair whipping across her face, gaze darting between Liam's limp hand and Hope's brimming eyes. There is no room for rivalry, no space for the old triangles to rise. Only a unified front folding into the ambulance, where the monitor already screams with elevated intracranial pressure warnings. At the hospital, Finn toggles between doctor and friend, barking orders for anti-seizure meds while gripping Liam's shoulder to ground him in the return to consciousness. Hope stands behind the glass of radiology, fists clenched so tight her nails draw crescent moons in her palms, watching fresh scans bloom on the screen. She does not need a medical degree to see darker shadows than before. Jagged outlines inching closer to critical function centers. When the attending neurologist quietly states that the tumor has doubled in size since the last scan and now presses against the temporal lobe, Hope exhales a sound that is part gasp, part wail. And Steffi's arm wraps around her even as Finn's knuckles whiten on the back of Liam's gurney. Within hours the prognosis shifts from manageable to perilous, and specialists murmur about emergency resection, about radiation no longer being optional, about risks of paralysis or speech loss. Hope's mind reels, picturing Beth asking why Daddy can't braid her hair, why Daddy's words slur, why Daddy forgets her birthday. She corners Finn outside the ICU, demanding brutal honesty. How many more seizures before irreversible damage, before a fall becomes fatal? Finn presses lips to brow, confesses the margin for error has vanished. That night, perched on a plastic chair beside Liam's bed, Hope whispers the inconvenient truth that she still loves him in ways labels never capture, promises he will not face surgery alone, begs him to accept every ounce of help Steffi, Finn, Bill, Wyatt, even Thomas have offered. In semi-lucid intervals Liam fights tears, admits the plumbing ordeal was just a pretext to keep watchful eyes near while sparing Hope and Beth the sight of him unraveling. Hope's heart fractures yet recognizes the instinct to shield loved ones even as darkness encroaches. Meanwhile, Steffi argues with hospital administration to fast-track operating room clearance. Finn squares off with an insurance liaison who frets about out-of-network neurosurgeons, and Ridge and Taylor rush back from a design conference. Shock rippling across runway swatches when they learn Liam's condition is more critical than any briefing suggested. By dawn, a surgical team is assembled, talent poached from Zurich and Boston and Tokyo, because Finn refuses to gamble with anything less than the world's best. Hope signs consent papers as Liam's proxy while Bill rages in a corner about private air transport to Swiss clinics should this hospital bulk. Yet before they sedate him, Liam pulls Hope close, voice a fragile rasp, asking her to tell Beth that Daddy's headache finally met its match, that he'll wake up thinking about her first, that she is brave enough for both of them. Tears blur Hope's vision as she promises. And then he surprises her, gifting a weary smile meant to banish her fear until his hand spasms, alarm bells shrill, and another seizure erupts, forcing anesthesiologists to race the tremor toward oblivion. Hours stretch like lifetimes. Monitors flash vitals, scalpels trace futures. Outside or doors, Hope paces. Steffi prays to God she seldom invokes. Finn scrubs surgical sweat from brow while coaching colleagues through microscopic maneuvers. And somewhere in the waiting area, Beth clutches the storybook she never got to hear, wondering why grown UPS cry when heroes fall asleep. At last the lights dim and Finn emerges, mask dangling, voice hoarse as he announces they excised more than planned because the tumor's fingers had curled deep, but they achieved a margin. They stemmed the seizure source. They believe Liam has a fighting chance, albeit one laced with weeks of rehab and the specter of recurrence. Hope collapses into a chair, sobbing gratitude. Steffi squeezes her shoulder. Bill strides off to secure the rehab wing, and for a heartbeat rivalry cease beneath the miracle of a pulse on a monitor. Yet, even in victory lurks peril. Pathology could reveal aggressive mutation. Postoperative swelling could conjure fresh crises, and the next scan could slingshot them back into chaos. For now, though, Hope hovers by Liam's bedside as anesthetic fog recedes, ready to greet the groggy flicker in his eyes with the news that he is still here, that Beth's bedtime stories await, that Steffi and Finn will guard him until the pipes at home are fixed and the nightmares of collapse feel like distant smoke. And though the road is littered with physical therapy sessions, medication regimens, cognitive tests that may expose deficits, and the looming dread of another dark shadow on a future MRI, Hope's presence promises he will never again face that cliff's edge alone. Meanwhile, word ripples through Los Angeles. The next round of tests may still bring grim tides. The tumor's legacy may yet unspool new horrors. But Liam Spencer's battleground is no longer hidden under polite excuses. It is lit by the unwavering devotion of the women who once contended for his heart and now conspire for his survival, a coalition forged in terror, tempered by love, and prepared to confront every seizure, every surgery, every shattering revelation that the follow-up scans might deliver in the weeks ahead.